Remember our friend Steve Crump tonight. One of his favorite stories to cover was horse racing. Rooted deep, of course, from the pride of hailing from the state of Kentucky. And Steve's last story with WBTV, it turned out, well, to be all too fitting. Back in July, Steve worked with our producer Jack Vandertal and photojournalist Gregory Simpson to bring us a story on retired racehorses cared for by prison inmates, where both were given second chances. On a personal note, many of us feel this may be some of Steve's best work. We're honoring him by looking back, hearing his words, doing what he loved. And so for the final time, our Steve Crump brings us the story.
They've responded to past calls to the post, sprinted through starting gates at tracks across America. And some of the fortunate four-legged survivors of this high-stakes game are now cared for by the South Carolina Department of Corrections. With names like Whiskey, Herc, and Crypto Disco, their dedicated caregivers are no longer grooms, trainers, and jockeys, but rather men in flashy orange outfits taking on a fresh skill set. Inmates who are fostering a newly discovered passion for pampering retired thoroughbreds who once carried out a starring role in what's been called the sport of kings.
Like a dog, they're pets. You get attached to all of them.
We were not allowed to show their faces or talk to these men about prior offenses, but Samuel, who works for the mayor by the name of Cassidy, embraces the Thoroughbred Racing Foundation's Second Chance program as a therapeutic game changer.
It brings you a little closer to home. Peace. It gives you a sense of peace in a place like this. Patience. Lots of patience.
This is a program like other programs that we have at the Department of Corrections that helps folks that are incarcerated with rehabilitation.
Brian Sterling is the director of the South Carolina Department of Corrections. The Wateree River Correctional Institute in Sumter County is one of 8 lockups around the country where horses bask in life's sunset years. Sterling believes inmates seeking a new equine skill set clearly reduces the rate of repeat criminal offenders.
It's under 10%. I'd say around 7.5–8% of the folks.
So in other words, you see fewer faces in the so-called revolving door.
Yes, we're stopping that revolving door.
You take him, you watch him. You know, someone will act up sometime, but that's what they do.
Assigned to Crypto Disco, Artie feels the deep personal connection between man and animal can best be defined as a two-way bonding experience.
Because these horses teach you how to just be calm. You be calm with them, and you learn to be quiet with them.
It's kind of like a paradise for these horses who have spent their days racing. Some of them were pretty good, most of them weren't very good.
But good enough to be blessed with a newfound lifeline, according to William Cox, who heads up the South Carolina Thoroughbred Retirement Association.
Instead of being lost to euthanasia or slaughter or something, we provide a sanctuary. Really, this is an old folks home for thoroughbreds.
No rocking chairs for the residents of this old folks home, just individual stalls, a lengthy barn, and farm pastures. Horses have been coming to this correctional facility since back in 2004, and right now they manage to keep 20 at a time. Just like the inmates, the horses are getting a new lease on life, making sure that they're not forgotten at the finish line.
These horses are taken care of. They get to come out here to this beautiful farm, this beautiful property in Rembert, South Carolina, live out their days completely carefree.
South Carolina continues a well-documented love affair with horse racing. Springtime brings the Ellery Trials. Camden provides a constant home to highly publicized steeplechase events, and Aiken is best known as a thriving thoroughbred community with its dogwood stables that's even sent entries to the Kentucky Derby at Louisville's historic Churchill Downs.
Groom them, you take him, you watch them.
Watching them and turning over the reins to a waiting family willing to adopt can be painful. Artie's heartstrings have been tugged.
When you get attached to them, it's very hard. It's very hard, especially when you deal with them every day.
And for Samuel, it's a deeply cherished relationship with a special dialogue all its own.
Watch their ears, their body language.
Ears are clicking.
She's listening.
One last story beautifully told by the one and the only Steve Crump.